In this screencast, I will show you how to exclude events from being forwarded to certain notifications like email or desktop notifications, database, and so forth. After you've installed and deployed EventSentry, you may notice, or you may get a few false positives from the EventSentry agents for certain alerts that are most likely unique to your environment and that may not be relevant and may not really be considered a real error. While we try to minimize these false alerts as much as we can, and if you look here, we have a lot of packages with a lot of filters in here to exclude common errors that aren't really errors. We can't really accommodate or account for every installation, every server, every event that's being generated in the real world, and so it's up to you, the end user, to create exclusion rules for events that you don't want to receive and won't want to get on your email and so forth. Of course, an alternative approach would be to delete all the packages that are defined here and only set up specific rules for specific events you want to get notified on. But with that approach, you do run the risk of missing important events that you maybe don't expect. So the purpose of this tutorial here is to show you how can you easily and quickly exclude events so that you won't get bothered by them by email, for example. In this tutorial here, we'll be using the growl notification, which will show up on the top here, and we'll use the growl notification since it's easier to show in this interactive tutorial than it is to show emails. So the first step, of course, in excluding an event is we'll have to create an exclusion rule, and I'll show you how to do that most effectively. What I've done is I've created a sample task here, task with error. Running this task will generate 2 errors in the task scheduler event log, and we'll use that as an example, and we'll exclude these events as part of this tutorial. I'm going to run this task here from the command line with the tasks command line utility, and what will happen is these events were forwarded to the growl notification. So we have one and another one here, and we're going to exclude both of these events now. So first, the easiest way to do that is by finding the event in the built-in event viewer and using the built-in event viewer's capability to create exclusion rules. So if you look at the application and services logs here, we can see the task scheduler event log. And clicking it, we'll see these 2 events that were just generated here. It was action failed to start and action start failed. Event ID 203 and 103. To exclude this event is very easy. We can double click it and view it, and we have a button here, exclude event, or we can also right click the event and say add exclude filter. So it's now asking us where to put this exclude filter. Thankfully, we already have a task scheduler package available, so we'll just call this exclusion test 1, and we'll hit OK. EventSentry automatically creates the exclusion filter indicated by the red round symbol here. It's an exclude filter here. Populates the event source category, event ID, and the username. In this particular case, we're going to remove the username so that it applies to any user starting this task. And the only thing that we'll have to put in manually here, so the severity was already automatically selected, is the action to which this exclusion should apply. And if we hit the add button here, we'll see what that means. So we have 4 notifications here. 2 email actions that are set up by default by EventSentry, the primary database, which is also set up by default by EventSentry installation. And we also have the growl notification that I've added in an earlier tutorial. We're going to select growl because we don't want to get these notifications on the top of our screen every time this task runs or fails to run, because we just don't care about it. You'll notice here that none of the event logs are selected, and that's because this particular event is not created in one of the common, the legacy event logs. It's created in one of the applications and services logs, and these are selected here. You'll notice that the log 1 here was automatically selected. So that's the name. You simply specify the name of the log here, and you can also browse for the names in this dialog here. So the task, the filter here is created, but that was of course only the first one, event ID 203. So we'll go back now. We'll go back down here, find the task scheduler operational log again, and we'll tackle the second one. Exclusion test 1. We'll say add exclusion filter. We'll call it exclusion test 2. And we'll select the task scheduler package. And voila, here it is. Same thing as before. We'll remove the username here again so that it applies to any user. We'll verify here that the log is checked. And as before, we'll add the ground notification. Of course, you can add multiple notifications here to a filter. And since I'm a little bit of a neat freak, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this filter down here so that they're all in order here. So test 1 and test 2. Just to make sure that this is still working, we're going to run this task again. And here is our first notification and our second notification. Okay, we're going to collapse this. I'm going to hit the save button here, but you can also access it with the main application button. Whenever we save the configuration, we need to wait for the agent to apply that new configuration. And you can do that by looking at the application event log and waiting for a 1035 event, just like it's shown here from something I've done earlier. And we'll just hit the refresh button here once to see if that event is logged. Not quite yet. Usually it takes about 30 seconds. And here it is, the new configuration was applied. And so we'll simply run this task again. And we'll see that we're no longer getting the ground notification. It was as simple as that. One thing not to forget when we add or make changes to the configuration is that we need to push these configuration changes to the remote hosts, which should receive these updates. So for example, if we wanted to push this to all the computers in the servers group, we'll just hit the push configuration and then a go button, and that update would be sent out to the server big event here. A couple of notes here on how to make managing actions inside filters a little bit easier. In this particular case, we can see that the default email here is an action associated with a different filter, one that notifies us when a task has failed, because in most cases you will want to know about it. We can utilize folders to organize filters. So for example, we could create a folder here called exclusions, and we can move these filters into this folder, and again we want to sort it. So now we got these filters nice, a little bit neater here. And what we can also do, we can say, you know what, we want to apply these rules, the task start failed and the exclusion test, not just to the ground notification but to email notifications, and we want to do that for all the filters inside the package. So the way you can do that is you right click and select properties, and here we have the option to override actions of all objects in this package, in this particular case filters. So what we'll do here is we'll check this box, hit add the default email, add again, add growl, and what we'll notice now is if we navigate to one of these filters, the actions are listed but they're grayed out because we can't change them anymore. The nice thing about that is that if you add a new filter to the package, the actions are already set and you won't have to do it again, which is especially convenient when you want to make changes to the actions later on when you already have dozens of filters inside a package. And that's really the most convenient way, the fastest way to add an exclusion filter. Of course, if you don't have the event in the event viewer available, or it's on a remote host where it's hard to reach, you can always right-click a folder or a filter, say add filter, call it exclusion test 0, switch it to exclude, and fill in all the information manually or select it from the drop-down as much as that's available. if you received the event via email and you happen to use Outlook, you can select the entire email with copy with Control C, and then simply place the cursor into any of these fields here, hit Control V, and the contents of that event will also be pasted into this dialog here. And that's pretty much it on excluding basic events. In future and other tutorials, I'll go into more details on how to utilize content filters, thresholds, and so forth. Thank you for watching.